there are a lot of things happening right now that are a culmination of explaining to all of you what I have been explaining to you all for the past few years. I have been explaining to you all that the so-called left, the synthetic left, is becoming the main danger. I have explained to you all that those of us who are anti-imperialist need to get out of the movement to the masses. I have explained to you all that the United States is heading towards a low-wage police state. I've explained to you all that we need to unite with all who can be united and build an anti-monopoly coalition. I've explained to you all this is all rooted in the problem of overproduction. I've explained to you all kinds of different things about all kinds of different issues. And tonight, I think we could just go over a number of different things and a number of different comments and things that have happened that can show you where we're at. First thing is the case that I continue to raise awareness about, the Uhuru movement. These are a group of Black revolutionary activists who had their homes raided by the FBI in August. Their homes were raided by the FBI, and now they have been indicted by the U.S. government. They are facing 10 years in prison for their anti-war activism, for their anti-imperialism. The indictment from the U.S. government lists the fact that they went on some Zoom calls, the fact that they sent on emails, the fact that they've spoken up in support of Russia. They've accused them of sowing discord and spreading Russian propaganda. And the Center for Political Innovation, my organization, we have been on the forefront of defending the Uhuru organization from this persecution. And we have been so much in the forefront of doing so that we've actually been honored by the Uhuru movement on their recent Zoom call. This is what they had to say about the Center for Political Innovation. This is on the official Uhuru movement, African People's Socialist Party Zoom call, web conference. This is what they had to say about our organization.
A shout out and revolutionary salute to John, along with Caleb and the rest of the Center for Political Innovation for your consistent support, including speaking out, demonstrating, donating, and encouraging others to donate at every opportunity. Speaking of which, right at this moment, you can go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate to make your contribution.
Yeah. They gave a special shout out to John, one of our beloved members at the Center for Political Innovation, for his work to support the Uhuru movement. And they gave a shout out to our organization overall. And let me note that right after they were raided, this happened. And I will pull up the video file. We had our conference in Chicago. Our conference was all scheduled. Garland Nixon was coming. Tara Reid was coming, and then about a week before our conference, they got raided. We immediately decided we absolutely needed to support the Uhuru movement. So they came and spoke at our conference in Chicago.
Put forward this vision of rebuilding America with popular power, breaking out of their globalist financial system. We must oppose all political repression. The deep state is moving in on too many people right now, threatening their rights. And that is why we absolutely condemn the horrendous FBI raids carried out against the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru House, and Chairman Omala. Here today to show that we are not afraid, we are not intimidated, and that we offer nothing but unequivocal full support and solidarity to them while they're under attack. Please stand up, comrades. Come on the stage, please. revolutionaries and civil rights activists as agents of Russia is one of the dirtiest tricks of the U.S. deep state. They called Martin Luther King Jr. a Soviet agent. They called the Nation of Islam foreign agents. And we are here today to say that black people have the right to organize, fight for their rights however they choose, and that the U.S. government has no right to call them Russian agents or repress them in any way.
That's our position. We, from the beginning, from the moments those raids happened, we came to the side of the Uhuru movement. We've defended the Uhuru movement. We've done so consistently. Now, I want to mention there's many, many more aspects of this that we have to get into, right? So that's our role. We have been thanked by the Uhuru movement for our consistent support in terms of donations, financially, in terms of raising awareness about their case. They've come to our events. And who else spoke at our conference in Chicago? None other than Tara Reade, the woman who was sexually assaulted by Joe Biden. And Tara Reade, recently, she's been speaking. She now works with Kim Iverson. She arranged for Kim Iverson to show and bring Chairman O'Malley onto the show of Kim Iverson. And in addition to that, recently, this Saturday, Tara Reade spoke at an event called by Diane Sayre. And this is what Tara Reade said about the case.
Really horrible has recently just happened. I don't know if you're aware. About a year ago, I met some people from the Uhuru movement, the Black Socialist Party. And I heard about them because in last year, their homes were raided in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, and in St. Petersburg, Florida. I reached out to them and talked with them, and I texted some of the media people I knew and said, look, independent media, because legacy media doesn't talk to me. But anyway, that's a different story. But so I reached out to my independent media friends and I said, this is a canary in the coal mine of trying to silence our First Amendment right of speech. They raided Chairman O'Malley's home. He's 80 years old. He was sitting at the breakfast table with his wife discussing their midwifery program. And many of you in this room might not even agree with the Uhuru group's movement or their stance, their socialist belief system, but that doesn't matter. This is America, and this is where we're supposed to be able to express these views. They're a nonviolent group, but remarkably, the FBI entered Chairman O'Malley's home with drones, armored tanks, and he had the red dots all over him as he came out. They accused him of being an agent of Russia. Chairman O'Malley loudly said publicly, I've been an activist for 50 years. No country tells me what to do. And he was right. No country did. Chairman O'Malley and his group have been raising up for decades their belief system and trying to get justice for their communities that are impoverished and have dealt with systemic racism. Well, just recently, they've been indicted by the DOJ. And the remarkable thing, if you go online and read that indictment, one of the things they're accusing them of, sowing discord. Now, how many of you in this room are sowing discord? You're all gonna be raided. I joke, but my heart is heavy because Chairman O'Malley is 80 years old. And they're gonna cage him and lock him up for up to a decade, accusing him of being a Russian agent, and he's not. And I'm emotional about this because every single one of us in this room is losing our fundamental constitutional right to freedom of speech. And Chairman O'Malley and his group deserve to be lifted. So those of you that can on social media, please read independently. Don't just read the smears, because right now legacy media is just trying to make them sound like they are agents of Russia when they're not. So it's up to us to get the truth out there. To his credit, Tucker Carlson recently had him on the show. I'm a producer on the Kim Iverson show. She recently had the Chairman O'Malley before the indictment, and then after, she's been discussing it. So we do have people in this space, INN, Independent News Network, the Schiller Institute, and other people that are friends of the constitutional right for freedom of speech are trying to raise this up. So we have the existential threat of endless wars and nuclear annihilation facing us head on. And those of us that are speaking against it are being targeted by a weaponized DOJ. That weaponization has occurred by the Biden and Obama administration. The thing about the Uhuru Group that you might not know is that they disrupted, much like Jose. Where's Jose? There you go, Jose. Give him a big hand. He's awesome. He's our disruptor too. Well, they disrupted Obama back in the day at a key district in Florida, and the Obama and Biden administration never forgot it, did they? And they've been a target ever since. And so look at them now. They're now facing prison. This is wrong. Now, I'm politically independent. As you know, I used to be a Democrat. I left the party. I don't know if they've noticed, but I have. And I will never vote Democrat again. And while I appreciate some of the people that are trying to say they're anti-war within the Democratic Party, it's right now so rife with corruption and such a tool of the military-industrial complex. It needs to be upended before there can be any systemic change.
So that's who's supporting the Uhuru movement right now. Me, Center for Political Innovation, Lyndon LaRouche and the LaRouche Organization, Tara Reid, Kim Iverson. But who else? Who else has spoken up in support of the Uhuru movement? I'm just going to show you. These are just facts. Take them or leave them. Who else has spoken up in support of the Uhuru movement?
Started at policy review, the Soviet Union collapsed.
This is Tucker Carlson speaking at the Heritage Foundation,
Which was an
on Saturday. He was fired on Monday.
amazing thing. The coup against Gorbachev in the third week of August 1991 was the week I started at Heritage. And in retrospect, of course, you never appreciate the significance of things as they happen to you. You can't really know what the movie's about until it ends. But at the time, we didn't really appreciate how, well, two things. One, our entire political orientation was based on this war between the United States and the Soviet Union, this Cold War, but very much a war. And every part of our politics, as you well remember, those of you my age and older remember, every part of our politics revolved around that central conflict. That's the first lesson of history. You know, nothing is permanent except our own demise and God. But we didn't kind of get that. You know, if you told me then that this week the Department of Justice would have indicted a group of people I don't agree with, by the way, on a lot of different issues, Black nationalist socialists from Florida, okay, kind of not my demographic, but would have indicted them for criticizing the US position, the Biden administration's position on the war in Ukraine, and charged them with felonies for which they're each facing 10 years in prison. If you told me that could happen here, I would have laughed at you. No, we have a First Amendment. That can't happen here, but it has, that and a lot of other things, which are gravely unsettling, actually, and people who were rooted in the Cold War story and the reality of the Cold War, again, my age, 53, kind of know where that goes.
So Tucker Carlson spoke up in support of the Uhuru movement. And so did Glenn Beck, I might add. So did Glenn Greenwald. So did a number of journalists. So did a number of people that spoke up in support of the Uhuru movement. CPI, yes, yeah, got it. Yes, wrote it down. Thank you. And, you know, CPI, we've spoken up in support of the Uhuru movement. And Tara Reid has spoken up in support of the Uhuru movement. Kim Iverson has spoken up. Jimmy Dore has spoken up in support of the Uhuru movement. Aaron Mate, Matt Taibbi, all these people have spoken up in support of the Uhuru movement. Tucker Carlson even spoke up in support of the Uhuru movement. And now Tucker Carlson just lost his show on Fox News. It's been removed. And if you haven't noticed, there are certain forces that are now all celebrating Tucker Carlson losing his show. I mean, take a look at social media. There have been certain forces that are overwhelmingly celebrating the fact that Tucker Carlson has lost his show on Fox. And they are saying things like, oh, he's right wing. Oh, he's a fascist. Oh, he's not a real supporter of, he's not a real anti-imperialist, etc. Now, folks, I want to tell you about one place that all the people who seem to be supporting the firing of Tucker Carlson seem to be connected to. I'm just going to put it up here on the screen. There's a building in New York City. And it seems like all the people that are really happy that Tucker Carlson, the one voice on mainstream media that spoke up for Julian Assange, the one voice on mainstream media that spoke up in support of the Uhuru movement, the one voice on mainstream media that spoke up about the danger of a new world war, the one voice that said maybe we shouldn't be sending weapons to Ukraine, the one dissident voice in American mainstream media just got removed. And if you look at all the people on social media that are supposed to be anti-war, who somehow think this is a good thing and are celebrating it, one way or another, they all connect to this place, the People's Forum. Now, this is a building in New York City. It's an office, Midtown Manhattan. Very interesting. The People's Forum opened up. I've been there a few times. You know, they've had events there in support of Venezuela. They have Vijay Prashad speak there a lot. You know, they're just known to be this leftist space. When the Venezuelan foreign minister was visiting, he was visiting New York City. He came there and we were invited. There was a reception. I got to shake hands with the Venezuelan foreign minister there, the People's Forum. But it seems like all the people that are celebrating the Uhuru movement being indicted, calling them a cult, all the people that are celebrating Tucker Carlson losing his show, all the people who called Jimmy Dore a fascist, all the people that, no matter what they say about Cuba or China or Venezuela, they always find some way to get it back to supporting the Stop Trump movement. All of them seem connected to this place called the People's Forum. All of them. Very interesting, isn't it? The People's Forum. And there are certain communist groups that are always doing stuff at the People's Forum. The Party of Socialism and Liberation, the Communist Party USA, the Workers' World Party, Struggle, La Lucha, all these communist groups are always doing stuff at the People's Forum. But you know, CPI has never been welcome at the People's Forum. I don't know why. Long before we were even CPI, when we were Students and Youth for a New America, if we ever tried to pass out leaflets there or anything, they would always stop us. We could never get a reason why. They would give us a phone number, say, well, if you want a leaflet here, you have to talk to this guy. They'd give us a phone number, and that phone number didn't work. For some reason, we've never been welcome there. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. You know, long before I was a big deal on the internet and BreadTube all went after me, long before I was accused of every nasty name in the world, long before any of this, whenever anyone associated with our organization went to the People's Forum, they were told they couldn't pass stuff out. We were basically told we're not welcome. And they could never really give us a clear reason why, but for some reason, Anyone who's ever been associated with Students and Youth for a New America, the Center for Political Innovation, every time we go there and try to do anything, they're hostile to us. Meanwhile, everyone who's associated with the People's Forum, everyone who's associated with the People's Forum is celebrating Tucker Carlson getting fired. Everyone who's associated with the People's Forum is all about how Trump is a fascist. We got to stop Donald Trump. We got to stop Trump. Trump is a fascist. We got to stop Trump. We got to support wokeism. Very interesting, isn't it? Very, 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 very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Now, folks, I want to make you aware of something else. Something else you should probably be aware of, right? The date, June 30th, 2019, is a very important day in world history. Do you know why? You know why June 30th, is a very important day in world history? You know why? June 30th, 2019 is the day that this happened. I'll put it on the screen. June 30th, 2019. Hold on. June 30th, 2019 is the day that something very important happened. Something very important happened on June 30th, 2019. This is what happened. On June 30th, 2019, the first sitting U.S. president, who is currently the president of the United States, ever to visit North Korea, went to North Korea. Donald Trump crossed the demilitarized zone and he visited the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. And this happened. This is in the DMZ, the big space between North and South Korea. Donald Trump became the first president in U.S. history to cross the DMZ. He shook hands with Kim Jong-un, and it looked like negotiations toward U.S. troops leaving South Korea and the peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula were starting to happen. This was a big moment in American history. No other sitting U.S. president had ever visited North Korea. Donald Trump did it. This was a really, really big deal. And Jim Rogers, a billionaire investor, a former friend of George Soros who had a falling out, he supported the move because he said that North Korea could become an economic powerhouse because it could join the Trans-Siberian Railway. It could join the Belt and Road Initiative, the Belt and Road from China. There was a lot of money to be made. Then there were a number of lower-level capitalists who thought this was a good move, who supported Donald Trump in doing this. It was a great moment. A very, very great moment. And I'll tell you this much. This is important. I was a member of the Workers' World Party before Donald Trump was elected. And in the Workers' World Party, the woman who handled our relations with North Korea was this woman. This woman, her name is Deirdre Griswold. And there were a couple times I went with her to receptions that were held at the North Korean mission to the United Nations. And she was the one who handled the Workers' World Party's relations with North Korea, Deirdre Griswold. Right? Deirdre Griswold is now in an old folks' home, not a spring chicken, not a young person, but she was politically active at the time. And she was the one who arranged we would bring delegations to go to the UN mission of People's Korea. It was Deirdre. And you'll recall Deirdre Griswold even went on a certain television program. Deirdre Griswold was invited to go on Tucker Carlson's program. You'll remember. Tucker Carlson had Deirdre Griswold on his show to talk about People's Korea. I can actually show this to you. I might actually show you the clip. I have to start downloading the clip. I didn't prepare that clip, but I'll actually show it to you. Deirdre Griswold, a member of the Workers' World Party, who was in it when I was in it, she went on Tucker Carlson's show. Support People's Korea. Here, I'm going to start uploading the clip. I'll start downloading the clip. But I'll show it to you. Right? We'll show that a little bit later in the broadcast because we got to start the download now. I didn't have that one prepared. I actually just remembered that while I was talking about it. That's kind of relevant to what we're talking about. Deirdre Griswold went on Tucker Carlson's show to talk about peace on the Korean Peninsula and supporting North Korea. Worth mentioning. But regardless, right before the 2016 elections, Deirdre Griswold, who frequently communicated with the North Koreans, told the Workers' World Party members that North Korea thought Trump was the better candidate. North Korea thought that Donald Trump was the better candidate, that Donald Trump was more supportive of North Korea and more willing to negotiate with North Korea than Hillary Clinton was. And Deirdre Griswold made clear that while the Cubans thought that Obama was better, the North Koreans thought that Trump was better. That's what she said. And then who did we have? Who had Deirdre Griswold on his show? Who was it? Here we go. Let's skip ahead.
Process of moving toward
Hate America. So you're a longtime communist. You're a longtime supporter of the DPRK. You visited at the invitation of the government. You think its leaders are great. When you see CNN and Reuters agreeing with you that its leaders are great, that must validate you. I mean, you must cheer as you watch the Olympic coverage.
I've been to both North Korea and South Korea, and I'm on this program because I want to talk to the people who watch your show and make a serious point that we're in the process of moving towards a nuclear war. And they have never experienced that, but the Korean people know very much what war is like, and they're not for it. And the people of South Korea don't want war any more than the people of North Korea do. And they showed that at the Olympics, when in the opening ceremonies, when they cheered with great joy the fact that the North and the South were marching together.
So since you've been to both countries, I'm just wondering, so one is obviously the world's last Stalinist regime. It's pretty rigidly Marxist. That's North Korea. South Korea is floridly capitalist. It's a market-based economy, which, of course, you reject. Which country would you rather live in personally?
I won't try to answer and debate you on everything you've said. This is
I'm
your show.
not debating
You've
it.
got
No,
the
that's
whole
a sincere.
hour.
Well, that's a sincere question.
I only have a couple of minutes, but what I want to talk about.
You're not going to answer the question?
What I want to talk about is what I think is really of importance to the people of this country. That is that there's a group in Washington that really wants to push for a war. The Korean people don't want it. People here don't want a war, but they don't know what a war is like. They think you just push a button somewhere.
Well, but hold on. Let me just say that I've never said this to a communist before, but I actually agree with you. I don't want a war in Korea.
I've never said this to a communist before, but I actually agree with you. I don't want a war in Korea.
And I think there are people in Washington who are pushing for it. I think you're absolutely right there.
And I do think there are people in Washington who are pushing for it, and I think you're absolutely right there. That happened. That happened. Now, Tucker sounded a lot different back in those days. That may not be a complete fair representation. He was pretty hostile to North Korea in that interview. But even then, he had a pro-North Korean communist, Deirdre Griswold, on his show to defend North Korea. And he said he agreed with her. And he defended the Uhuru movement. And Deirdre Griswold told the Workers' World Party that the Koreans had communicated that they thought Trump was the better candidate for them, but Trump was more willing to negotiate with them. And then the North Koreans thought Trump was the better candidate. And then Donald Trump went to North Korea, and there was a historic handshake. The first sitting American president to cross the DMZ and go into North Korea was Donald Trump. This happened. This happened. You can't deny that it happened. Well, actually, somebody does deny that it happened, but this happened. June 30th, 2019, this happened. After Tucker had Deirdre Griswold on her show, after Deirdre Griswold told the Workers' World Party that Trump was the better candidate, who was more sympathetic to them. And now Tucker Carlson has lost his show on Fox News. And now all kinds of people associated with something called the People's Forum are cheering that he lost his show because he's a big fat racist. Now, I know this sounds a little garbled. This probably sounds a little bit jumbled. Right? And this may be a little bit hard to follow. There's a lot of different factors here. Right? There's a lot of different forces involved in all of this. I'm just going to tell you what we've been over so far in case you're just joining the program. 1, the Uhuru movement, a group of Black revolutionary activists, have been indicted by the American government and are facing 10 years in prison for allegedly being Russian agents. 2, the Center for Political Innovation has been personally honored and thanked by the Uhuru movement for all of the hard work we have done to support them. They have come to our conferences. We have raised money. We have done everything we can to highlight their case and to support them. 3, Tucker Carlson, the radio host, or the TV host, he also spoke up in support of the Uhuru movement, and he lost his show. 4, Tara Reade, the rape victim of Joe Biden, who was sexually assaulted and raped by Joe Biden, she has spoken up in support of the Uhuru movement. 4, something called the People's Forum in New York City, this building that is occupied by members of CPUSA and members of PSL and members of certain various groups, they're all celebrating that Tucker Carlson lost his show. 4, Deirdre Griswold said that the North Koreans said Trump was the better candidate who was more willing to negotiate with them. 5, Tucker Carlson even had Deirdre Griswold on his show and said that while he didn't support North Korea, he agreed with her about better relations. Well, this all sounds like a clusterfuck. I'm giving you all kinds of different points. But I'm getting to something very, very important. Getting to something quite important here. Now, I have to show you all something else. Show you something else. Right? Yet another picture. Again, here's something important. The Center for Political Innovation. We support the talks on the Korean Peninsula. And so for our conference that we just had in Washington, D.C., we made this banner. All right? There's Sam Bismuth and Timoshenko and Olympia Logic. That's us right in front of the White House. During our conference, we went and we had a speak out at the White House. What does our banner say? It says, "Finish what Trump started. Peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula." And it has a picture of Donald Trump shaking hands with Kim Jong-un. And it is us saying that we want what would be good for the United States in terms of bringing the troops home and improving economic relations, bringing in a new wave of investment and jobs. What would be good for North Korea in terms of bringing them into the world economy? What would be good for South Korea in terms of having the U.S. troops leave? In terms of what would be good for Russia in terms of, having not a nuclear crisis on its border? In terms of what would be good for China? The whole world would benefit if the process that Donald Trump started of reconciliation between the United States and North Korea, if that process continued. So we made this special banner that we had at our conference. And we have reached out to a number of different Korean American forces, Republicans, people that support Tulsi Gabbard. We want to build a movement for peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. And we've reached out to many different organizations about the fact that we want to build a movement for peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. And at this point, it's obvious that the people who want that are on the Republican side. Tulsi Gabbard is a huge supporter of negotiations and continuing the negotiations. Donald Trump advocates continuing the negotiations. The reason that what Donald Trump started and that what happened on June 30th, 2019 stopped is because of John Bolton, the neocon, who endorsed Joe Biden in the last election and turned against the Trump administration. When Trump wouldn't let him overthrow Venezuela like he wanted, when Trump went after wrecking the Korea negotiations, John Bolton left the Trump administration, and he campaigned for Biden in 2016 or in 2020. So this is our message. Finish what Trump started, peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula, picture of the great historic handshake. So keep all of this in mind. This has been a big effort that we've pushed in CPI. Every opportunity we get, we call for peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. We understand what the Koreans understand, which is that Donald Trump is more likely to continue the process and wants to continue the process. Meanwhile, it is the Democrats who do not. We understand that Tucker Carlson was more in support of the process, and Tucker Carlson is more in support of the Uhuru movement, and Tucker Carlson is more anti-war. We get this. And now, based on that, I want to clue you all in on something that just happened earlier. It happened earlier today, but, it started last week. So last week, I found out that on Saturday, there was going to be a demonstration by a Korean American organization to call for peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. And since this is one of the major efforts of the Center for Political Innovation, we decided to reach out to the organizers and politely ask if we could join the demonstration, if we could send representatives of CPI to the demonstration. And we sent a nice email, and the organization that is having this rally at the United Nations, the organization just so happens to be a group that is tied in with these people, right? They're tied in with the People's Forum, a group of Korean Americans called Noditol that are tied in with the People's Forum and closely connected to the Party of Socialism and Liberation, the PSL. But, the People's Forum has always been hostile to us. They've never let us hand out our leaflets there. They somehow always find a way to link what they're doing to the Stop Trump movement. They always somehow somehow find some way to celebrate things like Tucker Carlson getting fired. They always call people racist and homophobic and transphobic. They're hostile to the LaRouche people. They're hostile to all real anti-war forces. But you know what? The rally, the call for their rally, the call for their rally was a call for peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. So we reached out to the organizers and politely asked if we could attend the rally as people that are supporters of the peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. We sent them a picture of our banner. We were nothing but polite. And now I want to show you the response I got from Betsy Yoon, the organizer of the rally. This is the response that I got. I'm going to put it on the screen. Everyone can see it. This is the response that I got. Hi, Caleb. Thanks for reaching out. I spoke with my organization, and ultimately, we don't feel comfortable with having CPI attend due to the sexual abuse allegations around CPI and yourself. In addition, we would disagree with characterizing the peace negotiations as something that Donald Trump started. And we feel it's not aligned with the message of our 4/29 rally. Wow. Damn. You know, I mean, I don't know what gossip about consensual things that happened between me and one person have to do with this rally. I really don't. I really don't know what gossip about me and consensual things that happened with one person have to do with this rally. But I do find it interesting that somehow, based on that, based on the fact that something consensual happened with me between one person, they don't feel like I could be there. Like, she's basically saying that if people from my organization, not even me, I didn't even say I was going, but if people from our organization went there, we wouldn't be able to stop ourselves from sexually molesting all the people at the rally. She basically called every member of CPI a sexual predator in that email. That's what she said. Now, she may have said it in a roundabout way, but that's what she said. She basically said that every member of our organization is a sexual predator, that we wouldn't be able to go to the rally. Like, we would get there, and as soon as we got there, we'd be grabbing every person's ass and you know, grabbing every person in the groin. That's basically what she said. That because of some internet gossip, she said, no, we can't have you there. We're not comfortable with you there because of that. So she basically accused our entire organization of being sexual predators because of some stupid internet gossip about some consensual things that happened with one person. That's already been debunked. But I felt, you know, in response to this, I had to give Betsy a response, right? And so this is what I sent back to Betsy. This is what I sent back to Betsy. I'll put it on the screen. This is what I sent back to Betsy. I sent back to her, Betsy, thanks for clarifying that your organization is more concerned about internet cancel culture and opposing Trump than actually bringing peace to the Korean Peninsula. I will be sure to make this clear to all of my associates and allies, both domestically and internationally. Don't worry. You can be sure that none of our resources will be directed toward helping your organization's efforts, and you can remain pure. Best, Caleb. That was my response. But how is it exactly that they don't agree that Donald Trump did this? I mean, is it the position of this No to Tall organization that this is an actor? Is this like a body double? Is that their position? Is it their position that Deirdre Griswold wasn't telling people that the North Koreans thought Trump was more willing to negotiate? Is it the position of the No to Tall organization that Tucker Carlson did not have Deirdre Griswold on his program and say he agreed with her? Is it the position of the No to Tall organization that, well, I could go on. Very interesting, isn't it? Personally, I think that everyone should email Betsy Yoon right now, and I will drop her email in the chat. And I think we should all give her a piece of our minds, because basically what she revealed is that her organization, and I'm really glad that she emailed me back, and I'm really glad that she gave it to me in writing, because this is really important. And this is what I've been trying to tell all of you for so long. No to Tall doesn't actually want peace on the Korean Peninsula. No to Tall and the People's Forum, they work for the Democrats. Send her an email. Just give her your thoughts. They work for the Democratic Party. And their job is to rally Korean Americans or other people that might be supportive of North Korea to support the Democrats. That is what their job is. Send her an email, please. Please, give her a piece of your mind. And that strategy might have made some sense during the Cold War. The Democrats were more willing to negotiate back then. But now, in the age of this, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And for her to say in the email that the position of her organization is that this didn't happen, that's just downright absurd. Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, they want peace on the Korean Peninsula. Meanwhile, it's the Democrats who don't. It's John Bolton, who switched sides and now supports the Democrats, who wrecked this process. Meanwhile, you'll notice that Tucker Carlson just got taken off the air for advocating peace with Russia, for sticking up for Julian Assange, and all the people connected with the place that facilitates the activism of No to Tall and other Korean American organizations, all the people connected with it are all celebrating Tucker Carlson getting taken off the air. And they're always finding a way to link whatever anti-war protests happened somehow to the Stop Trump protest movement. Very interesting, isn't it? Very, very interesting. But it gets even more interesting, because what is the main political group that operates out of the People's Forum? What's it called? What is it called? The main political organization that operates out of the People's Forum. It's called the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the PSL. So I decided, just on a whim, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know these things. I thought, just to see, since we're doing this, since we're just checking things out here, I decided to Google the phrase Party of Socialism and Liberation and sexual abuse, just to see what might come up, Because I'm going to show you a few things that come up. Right? I just decided to Google it. A brief criticism of the PSL against the Party of Socialism and Liberation. Party for Socialism and Liberation members, me too. Oh, but it gets better. Here's another thing that came up. If you scroll a little bit further down, this is great. Take a look at this one. PSL, a cult of rapists and abusers. Interesting, huh? A cult of rapists and abusers? Now, who is the author of that statement accusing the PSL of being a cult of rapists and abusers? Why, it's none other than the Black Hammer Party. Does the name Black Hammer Party sound familiar? Well, it should. Because the 4 activists who've been indicted by the American government, 3 of them are part of the Uhuru movement, and 1 of them is the founder of the Black Hammer Party. Now, is this starting to make any sense to you all? Because it should. This should really make sense. The Black Hammer Party and the 4 activists who got supported by Tucker Carlson and are being indicted right now has called out the PSL. But yet, and I can show you there's even more. Oh, there's more. Oh, there's so much more. Right? Here, I'll show you. This is great. This is what I found about the PSL. Right? And again, I'm not even saying any of this is true. People make up shit on the internet just like they made up shit about me. Right? I'm not saying any of this is necessarily true or justified. I'm just saying it's out there. And if it being out there about me, means something, then it being out there about somebody else should mean something too. I mean, if you're going to base whether or not you'll work with someone to stop a war on internet rumors, maybe you ought to do it all around. But yeah, this is great. This is great. Let me show you this one. So this is a Quora question, right? Hi, I've seen that there's been a lot of communists who accuse the PSL of having a culture of misogyny and it's revisionist. Right? This is significant, important current, the sexual assault, the sexual faction. There's loads of allegations of PSL members sexually assaulting people. There's loads of allegations of PSL members who have been inappropriate sexually. But I have the feeling that Betsy's totally fine with PSL people coming to her upcoming rally. She's totally fine with it. Why? Because PSL are Democrats. Are you starting to understand what I'm getting at here tonight? Now, I know this is all complicated. I'm drawing from different places. But what you need to understand, and please give her a piece of your mind. Give her a piece of your mind. This is utterly ridiculous. This is utterly ridiculous. Give her a piece of your mind. There are 2 sides right now in the United States. There is one side that is trying to silence dissent on Facebook, on Twitter, on social media, and on mainstream media. There is one side that celebrated Tucker Carlson getting fired. There's one side that was outraged about it. There's one side that supports jailing Julian Assange, and there's one side that's outraged about it. There is one side that supports sending huge amounts of weapons to Ukraine, and one side that opposes it. And the most sinister thing is that there is a group of people And I've been telling you all about this for years. There is a group of people who claim to be on one side, but they are really on the other. And there is a group of people whose job it is to attach anti-war Americans to the pro-war side. There is a group of people whose job it is to muddy the waters and confuse everyone, to somehow get people to think, that you can be in favor of getting Tucker Carlson, the only voice critical of the war drive, banned from television and still be anti-war and still be anti-imperialist or still support North Korea. Betsy Yoon doesn't really support North Korea. If she did, she would be saying what we say. People who support North Korea talk this way because this is what North Korea is saying. People who actually support North Korea say that. That has been the position of North Korea. They understand that the forces aligned with Donald Trump are more willing to negotiate with them. They have felt that way since before Donald Trump was elected, and they still feel that way. That is what the forces that are sympathetic to negotiating with North Korea and want peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula think. This is what they think. This is what North Korea orients its allies around the world to believe. This is what North Korea wants people to understand. The North Koreans are smart enough to know who was the president when this happened. However, there is a group of people whose job it is to confuse people, to muddy the waters. There's a group of very dangerous, sinister people whose job it is to try and make people who want peace with North Korea cheer for getting Tucker Carlson banned from television. And there's a group of people whose job it is to try and get people to support the Uhuru movement being indicted. There is a group of people who wave the red flag to oppose the red flag. There is a group of people who preach socialism but practice fascism. There is a group of very evil people whose job it is to try and manipulate anti-war people into supporting the more pro-war faction. And we need to make this abundantly clear. No Natal does not want to support the Korean people. They want to support the Democrats. That's what they made abundantly clear. They're happy to work with PSL despite all kinds of crazy sexual allegations against them. They accused our entire organization of being sexual predators. And on top of that, they claimed that somehow Donald Trump was not the first president to visit the Korean Peninsula. If you can't understand how evil it would be, anyone can see that if you want peace on the Korean Peninsula, you shouldn't be joining the Stop Trump movement. You shouldn't be celebrating Tucker Carlson getting fired. And if anything, you shouldn't be excluding and trying to ban and demonize me. But yet, that is what these people are doing. That's what they're doing. They are more interested in fighting Donald Trump than they are in fighting U.S. imperialism. They are more interested in fighting against the right wing than they are in stopping the wars. This is a sinister, evil operation. And Ben Norton does the same thing. Ben Norton is in Nicaragua. I will never forget the night that Ben Norton was in Nicaragua. He's sitting in Nicaragua, the country that has the strictest anti-abortion laws in the world. It's a socialist country, but it has the strictest anti-abortion laws of any country in the world. And from Nicaragua, Ben Norton tweets out that anyone who doesn't want to stop the overturning of Roe versus Wade is a clerical fascist and is a Nazi. How do you square that hole? He's literally in a socialist country that has some of the strictest anti-abortion laws in the world, but yet he says that any American who doesn't believe in abortion or wants abortion to be illegal can't be welcome, shouldn't be allowed in left-wing spaces. Ask yourself what side Ben Norton is on. How does that make any sense? Well, it makes sense if you understand that Ben Norton's job isn't really to support Nicaragua. Ben Norton's job is to confuse people in Nicaragua and Americans who might be sympathetic to Nicaragua into supporting the Democratic Party. That's what Ben Norton's job is. And there's a whole layer of people like this. Luna Oy, Danny Haifong, the same group of people that boycotted and did everything they could to stop the biggest anti-war protest in the last 20 years. 13,000 people went to the Rage Against the War Machine rally in Washington, D.C. These people, not only did they not support it, they did everything they could to condemn it. They called it a Nazi rally. They called it a right-wing terrorist gathering. They accused it of every evil thing in the world. They called it a pedophile rally. A real anti-war rally that included Republicans, conservatives, leftists. They did everything they could to stop it. And then they had their little rally a month later, March 18th. And it was less than 1,000 people. Less than 1,000 people. Think about this. Less than 1,000 people, but it was all about trans rights. It was all about everyone's a racist, a sexist, and homophobe. They chanted, "How do you spell racist? M-A-T-O." If you looked at the rally, the Rage Against the War Machine, you saw American flags, you saw conservatives, you saw libertarians, you saw leftists, all marching together because they didn't want World War III. Very diverse crowd of people. And what you saw at the tiny little rally that happened on March 18th was a group of smelly leftists who need to take a shower, communicating how much they hate America and how much America is an evil country. That was the message of the rally. Tucker talked Trump out of bombing Iran, then talked people out of attending Rage Against the War Machine. This is what you need to understand. Everything that I have said on these streams has gotten 10 times truer since I started coming on here. If you go back. This is stream number 507. We've been doing this for years. And when I started, I didn't have anywhere near the anger. I started talking about the synthetic left. I started talking about the danger of war. I started talking about socialism with American characteristics. But everything that I said has gotten to be 10 times truer since these broadcasts started. And you know who is a great voice to explain this? You know who puts this very, very well? It's this woman, Jyoti Brar, of the Communist Party of Great Britain, Marxist-Leninist. She is awesome. She was a keynote speaker at our rally, at our event in Washington, D.C. She flew in all the way from the United Kingdom. She gave a great presentation, and she has actually been selected by, the People's Democratic Party, which is the South Korean Communist Party that is barely legal. It operates in exile in France. They selected her. They selected Jyoti Brar to be the leader of the World Anti-Imperialist Platform. And she just had an amazing conversation with Garland Nixon. Amazing conversation with Garland Nixon. And in that conversation, she made this point. Go and check out Jyoti Brar. She gets it. And the North Koreans love Jyoti Brar. She's been to North Korea a number of times. And now she's the head of the World Anti-Imperialist Platform, which is an anti-imperialist coalition of communist parties that have refused to buy into the plague on both your houses and say that Russia and China and People's Korea are right and U.S. imperialism is wrong. This is just a bit of her recent conversation with Garland Nixon. I would like you to hear.
And of course, the fact that they have to do this exposes entirely their weakness and their hypocrisy. Because they are this doublespeak. Okay, they've got this huge media of network of media where they don't get questioned and they're not called out for their hypocrisy. But people aren't stupid. There's a reason we're all so cynical about the media and politicians these days. It's because there are so many holes in the stories and the narratives they build for us. You've talked really eloquently about that, Garland, that they're constantly presenting us with contradictions.
Yes. Something else I think that is important if you're going to have a discussion about imperialism. Again, we're talking with Jyoti Brar. She is here to today particularly represent the World Anti-Imperialist Forum. And that is, you use the term left. And that is in the same way that the elite ruling class, whatever you want to call them, that they have take some of the terms like imperialism, etc. The question becomes now, what's left? Because we now have people in America, like a Joe Biden, like many people, who are opposed to workers uniting, coming together and having trade unions, who are pro concentration of power, pro corporate leadership, pro all of the things that traditional left espouses, the positions that who oppose viewing the world through the lens of economic class. But they call themselves lefts because of a couple cultural, whether it's the trans issue or they take some cultural issues that are worthy of discussion. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're worthy of discussion, but they take these issues and they redefine the left from traditional working class, union, trade union, etc. And they change it to the point where people have been confused and they're like, well, that person's on the left. And you're like, well, they're so far to the right of me, I couldn't see them if I had binoculars. No, they believe they're espousing the trans issue, whatever the case may be, things of that nature. Your thoughts on the redefinition of the left, and since you're working with the Anti-Imperialist Forum, what can we do to reclaim or refocus people to the traditional perspectives of what would be considered left-leaning politics, really worldwide?
Great answer Jyoti gives here. Here she goes.
So you're absolutely right to identify this. Obviously, I, as someone who's been working in this communist socialist movement for 30 years, have also been very aware of how this is happening. And actually, I always knew, because Marxism kind of makes it clear for people, and I am a Marxist and I study the works of Marx and Engels and Lenin to understand this world we live in. I think that they hold the key for us to understand what this struggle is all about. It's been very clear to me that this left-right spectrum that we're presented with has always been the spectrum of bourgeois politics. And
boom. The left-right spectrum is the spectrum of bourgeois politics.
Actually, real class, working class politics, the politics of representing the interests of the mass of working people, is not in that spectrum.
The politics of communism, the politics of the working class, is not in the left-right spectrum.
And never has been.
And never has been.
So we have always had the Trotskyites presented as the far left. Well, yes, they are the far left of bourgeois politics. Actually, their politics is acceptable to the ruling class. That's why they get talked about. And people like me don't exist in the bourgeois media because we're outside. And I have stopped talking about myself, to be honest with you, as left-wing, a lefty, anything like that. I say I'm a socialist. I do working class politics. That is the politics of the masses against the politics of the bourgeoisie. I'm not here to play the game of bourgeois politics. I'm not a politician in that sense, you know, and to me, it's actually been very helpful in clarifying that because it was always true. It was always true, but now it's becoming so obvious that you can say it to people and they understand what you're talking about in a way where 20, 30 years ago, when you said it to people, they were like, oh, but, you know, I see voices of the left in the media and I see the broad spectrum of opinion. And now they realize that broad spectrum isn't a spectrum. It's just different ways of packaging. It's branding, different ways of branding the same program. And the program is, in your case, defend US imperialism. In my case, defend British imperialism, no matter what. And they have all these different ways of wrapping that up from far left to far right, but it's the same program. So yes, you're absolutely right that we don't identify ourselves with that.
That's a great answer. And Jyoti Brar is amazing. And it's really, really was an honor to have her at our conference because she really sums it up. And what you need to understand is that organizations like the People's Forum, their job is to try and channel genuine anti-imperialist energy and the actual energy of those who want to work in the interest of People's Korea and of the American working class that want peace into supporting the Democratic Party. And part of that is trying to wage a McCarthyist cancel culture campaign against anybody who doesn't go along with that, whether it's Jimmy Dore, whether it's Max Blumenthal, whether it's me, anybody. This is what they try to do, is that their job is to try and take people that are sympathetic to anti-imperialist and socialist states and attach them to wokeism and attach them to the Democratic Party. And it must be opposed. It must absolutely be opposed. You have to call these people out. You can't cooperate with them. There was a time where we thought we could go into their spaces and they would tolerate us. They won't anymore. They are at war with us. They are at war with us because they know that anyone who's ever been to North Korea or talked to the North Koreans wants people to talk like this. They know that real allies of North Korea talk this way and say things like this. That's what real allies of North Korea do. They talk this way. They say, finish what Trump started, peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. They celebrate that there was the beginning of peace. And they know that. They're frauds. They're frauds. Note it all. Betsy Young, these people are frauds. They're frauds. Their job is to confuse the working class movement, confuse the anti-imperialist movement, and try to somehow figure out a way to get people who would be anti-war, who would be anti-imperialist, to cheer when Tucker Carlson gets fired, or to cheer when the Uhuru movement gets indicted, or to join and stop Trump rallies to support Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. This is what you need to understand. This is what you need to understand. These people are agents. There's a reason that they get billions of dollars in funding. And there's a reason that the Uhuru movement faces criminal charges and gets indicted while they get fancy offices set up for them. There's a reason. There's a reason. What I've been trying to get you all to understand about the synthetic left is really important. It's really, really, really important because things are getting much more serious in the United States and the ruling class is on the defensive. And we need to struggle against these forces. We need to struggle against these forces. We need to organize, and we need to go lower and deeper to the real masses, as Vladimir Lenin said. These forces have made it abundantly clear they will not be friendly to us. They won't. You can't be a real anti-imperialist and work with these people. Ask anyone who's ever been in the PSL. Ask anyone who's ever been to the People's Forum. It's 2 seconds before they start calling you transphobic, before they start calling you homophobic, before they start calling you a racist. These people are loyal to wokeism and the Democratic Party. They are not loyal to anti-imperialism. And they have no principles whatsoever. There can be no negotiations with wokeness. We have to get out of the movement and to the masses. Because these people don't really want peace. They are Democratic Party activists. That's what they are. They are Democratic Party activists. And that is why they are doing everything they can to destroy the Center for Political Innovation. They want to destroy the Center for Political Innovation. And you know why they want to destroy us? Well, I think I still have the video here. I will show you why they want to destroy us. This is why they want to destroy us.
A year or so ago, the 4-point program made a lot of sense. Mass mobilization to rebuild the country, public control of banking, public ownership of natural resources, economic Bill of Rights by Roosevelt. You don't need to be a communist to agree to them.
The protest was held in Times Square in New York City, and Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, mentioned it in a speech several hours after it happened.
Hoy ya en Estados Unidos hubo la primera marcha, la primera movilización en Nueva York. Allá.
I'm speaking on behalf of the Center for Political Innovation. I was sent here on behalf of Caleb Maupin.
The March 2022 conference featured a number of prominent social media personalities and was packed full of people. The website trutherfiction.com had to put up a page clarifying that the anti-imperialist gathering featuring the Soviet flag, the US flag, and the flag of the Donetsk People's Republic was indeed real and not an internet hoax. It's our own edition of the Green Book by Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. The CPI edition is the top-selling and top-rated version of the book on Amazon, and over 2,000 copies have been sold or distributed. CPI published the book Kamala Harris and the Future of America, an investigation into the woman who became the U.S. Vice President, which included her background and psychological profile. The book was widely reviewed in not only U.S. publications, but in print magazines in the UK and India. One of the main organizations that has worked against the Center for Political Innovation is the Communist Party USA. Ironically, CPI largely does the kind of educational work that the Communist Party fails to do. It is a well-documented historical fact that the Communist Party USA has been under the complete control of the FBI since at least 1958, if not earlier. Boris Child is a top FBI informant inside the Communist Party National Board, received the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his work controlling the Communist Party and using it to feed disinformation to the Soviet Union.
Sounds a lot like some other entities that currently exist in addition to the Communist Party. Sounds like something else.
CPI maintains that it is necessary to reinvent socialism and pull away from these forces. As Lenin said, we seek to go lower and deeper to the real masses. One point must also be made on behalf of the board of directors, and this is that Caleb Maupin is our ideological leader. CPI is a result of Caleb Maupin's vision for building an organization, and we recognize his unique approach to building 21st century socialism. Though CPI is much more than any one personality, we don't take for granted his pioneering efforts in understanding and applying Marxism, Leninism, anti-imperialism, and even Christianity. His place as our ideological leader and visionary shouldn't be understated, and we are proud that he has this place in our organization. Thanks, Caleb. If you feel you have a contribution to make, please join our organization. We will do our best to connect you immediately and put you to work. We want you to have a voice and we want to empower you.
So join the Center for Political Innovation, right? If you want to do real shit that isn't just shilling for the Democratic Party and lobbying for the Democratic Party, you ought to join the Center for Political Innovation. Because there is a reason that we have been so viciously targeted, and there's a reason that we've been able to accomplish so damn much in such a short amount of time. You look at what we've done. We've only been very active, extremely active for the past year or so. And in that time, we have done, past 2 years, we've done some amazing things. Right? We have accomplished so much in terms of what we've gotten done. And we're going to continue, and they won't be able to stop us. And they have hit us with everything, and we're still here. We are still here, and the Uhuru movement is honored is really appreciative of all the solidarity that we've done to support them. And, Tara Reid and Kim Iverson and Jimmy Dore and the Nick Brana of the People's Party and the Rage Against the War Machine. We have done so much. And we will continue to do it. We are a force to be reckoned with. And the reason that we are so viciously targeted is because we're not assets. We're not assets like certain organizations are. So I just wanted to make this clear. And I just hope that I used this recent incident to explain to you what's really going on, because we all need to be very clear about this.